Hi, I'm Gerald Ruderman, and I'm going to start speaking about almost bespoke clothing. And I'd like to start by talking about some of Simeon's words when he organized this meeting, and that is that making bespoke garments requires an integration of a lot of different skills. And by working together, we can make the clothing industry better and more sustainable. And the question is, what should the research agenda be? Next slide, please. So the goal for Almost Bespoke is to automate getting from a scan to a bespoke pattern for the person that was scanned. The scans consist of thousands of points in three-dimensional space, and the patterns consist of a few hundred points in two-dimensional space. And these are adequate descriptions of the input and the output of making a bespoke pattern. Next slide, please. Now, how do we get from there to here? Next slide, please. I'm starting with two principles. One of them is I'm taking a Gestalt perspective of the whole body. It is much greater than the summation of a bunch of linear measurements or even the summation of a bunch of parts of the body. We need to look at the whole human shape. And the other is a principle of Laplace that all the effects of nature are mathematical. So let's see if we can make this into something that's mathematical. Now, one of the important things to realize about a human shape is that there is a lot of redundancy in it, that the left side and the right side are similar but not identical, and that the high thigh and the mid thigh are related. Next slide, please. So how are we going to do this? First, we're going to have to learn from bespoke clothing experts. They have a lot of skills, and there are very few people who have those kinds of skills. Next step, please. And the idea is to apply artificial intelligence to mimic the way the bespoke clothing designers are working. Next slide, please. And that's going to be done by incorporating mathematics and geometry. Next slide, please. Now, these kids are throwing a ball. There we go, thank you. I don't know what's going on in their minds as they figure out how to catch the ball that's being thrown to them. But Newton, a few hundred years ago, came up with a theory of gravity that made it possible for Newton and Leibniz to come up with the calculus that made it possible to figure out how to model this behavior. So if I were building a robot to catch a ball, I would use a lot of mathematics and Newton's theory of gravity to build the robot to know where to go to catch the ball. I can't learn that math from talking to these kids, even though they are experts at catching the ball. Next slide, please. If you were to ask these kids what they're doing as they catch the ball, they will not use mathematics to describe what they're talking about, nor will bespoke clothing designers talk about mathematics as they're making clothes for somebody, either in the form of a human or from the scan. So how do we, next slide, please. So how do we do that? How do we get from the scans to the patterns? I propose scanning a lot of different people, not just fit models, but the range of humans in many different shapes and forms. Next step, please. And that it's important that it be that range of forms. And there are a lot of variations in shapes of bodies. And so we're going to take, next step, please, a designer who's going to make digital bespoke clothing for each of those scans of all of those people. And then we're going to look at what worked and what didn't work and fix it. And then we'll get another designer in to make digital bespoke clothing for each of those scans. And then we'll have a lot of data. And then somebody can take that data and develop a theory about how to go from scans to bespoke clothing using the expertise of the designers. Next slide, please. So what are the expertise that we need? Obviously, we need the designers. We need the bespoke pattern makers, but we also need the skills of the biomathematicians. They have been developing these skills, solving other kinds of problems, and it hasn't been applied yet to doing this for the bespoke clothing business. Next slide, please. And that's what I propose as the research agenda. Thank you.